Prologue. The Alpha King's body was crushing her, driving the air from her lungs, his weight pinning her to the ceremonial altar as ancient magic blazed between them. Diana felt his canines pierce her throat, the marking bite that would bind them forever, and then the world went black. She fainted beneath 220 pounds of raw alpha power, consciousness fleeing as the mating bond snapped into place. When she woke hours later, still trapped under his sleeping form, three impossible truths hit her at once. The silver mark burning on her neck that she never agreed to receive, the crushing weight of a king she'd spent 3 years carefully avoiding, and the horrifying realization that she couldn't remember how she'd ended up on this altar at all. Diana's first coherent thought was that she couldn't breathe. Thor's chest pressed against hers with each of his slow, deep breaths, his muscled arm draped possessively across her waist. The cold stone altar bit into her spine, a brutal contrast to the heat radiating from his bare skin. She tried to shift, to create even an inch of space, but her body screamed in protest, every nerve ending on fire, the fresh mark on her throat pulsing with a magic that felt both alien and devastatingly intimate. How did I get here? She forced herself to think past the panic. The gala. She remembered the gala. Arriving in her simple healer's robes, keeping to the shadows as she always did, invisible among the glittering courtiers. Someone had offered her wine. Who? A server? A familiar face? The memory dissolved like smoke the moment she tried to grasp it. Then nothing. Just this. Stone beneath her, an Alpha King above her, and a bond burning through her veins that she never, ever would have chosen. Not with him. Not with the son of the man who'd watched her family burn. Thor stirred, a low-groan rumbling through his chest. Diana froze, her healer's instincts warring with her survival instinct to run. When his amber eyes finally opened, confusion clouded them. Not the predatory satisfaction she'd expected, but genuine disorientation. What? His voice was rough, gravelly with sleep. He blinked down at her, then at the ceremonial chamber around them, candles burned to stubs, dawn light filtering through stained glass windows. What happened? You don't remember? The words came out sharper than she intended, edged with something between hope and terror. Thor pushed himself up slightly, and the separation, even just those few inches, sent agony lancing through Diana's chest. She gasped, her hand flying to her heart, and Thor immediately lowered himself back down, his face paling as the same pain clearly struck him. The bond, he breathed, horror dawning in his expression. We're bonded, but I don't. I can't remember. His gaze dropped to her throat, to the silver mark that would have taken his wolf form to create, and something like revulsion crossed his features. Did I hurt you? The question caught her off guard. 3 years she'd spent avoiding this man, convinced he was his father's son in every way that mattered, ruthless, violent, capable of genocide. But the devastation in his voice didn't match the monster she'd imagined. I don't know, Diana admitted, and hated how small her voice sounded. I can't remember either. I was at the gala, I drank wine, and then... She gestured helplessly at the altar, at their intertwined bodies, at the disaster that had become her carefully constructed life. This. Thor's jaw clenched. Someone drugged us. It wasn't a question. His eyes sharpened with an intelligence she hadn't expected, scanning the chamber, cataloging details. The ceremony requires consent. Witnesses. Without memory. Without choice. He looked back at her, and she saw her own trapped helplessness reflected there. This was done to us. Both of us. Us. As if they were allies instead of predator and prey. As if his father hadn't ordered her entire pack slaughtered while she hid in a burning healer's hut, her gift awakening in desperation as she'd tried and failed to resurrect her dying mother. Diana tried to sit up again, needing distance, needing to think, but the bond's agony drove her back down with a whimper she couldn't suppress. Thor caught her instinctively, his hand gentle at the small of her back, and the touch sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with pain and everything to do with the traitorous magic now singing in her blood. Don't, he said quietly. The bond is too new. Separation will hurt worse before it gets better. We need. He hesitated, and she saw him struggling with the same impossible reality. We need to stay close. At least until we figure out what happened. The entire court will know by now. Diana's throat tightened. 3 years of careful invisibility, of being forgettable, of hiding what she truly was, all destroyed in one drugged ceremony. They witnessed it. They'll have seen. A king marking his chosen mate. Thor's voice went flat. Legal. Binding. Irreversible. He shifted his weight, trying to give her more room to breathe without triggering the separation pain. Unless we want to die trying to break it, we're trapped together. You and the man you spent 3 years running from. Diana's breath caught. You noticed. I notice everything about you. The admission hung between them, intimate and unsettling. Every corridor you took to avoid me. Every feast you skipped when you knew I'd attend. Every time your heartbeat spiked when I entered a room. His amber eyes met hers, and she saw something there she couldn't name. Curiosity, perhaps, or the first stirrings of something more dangerous. The question is why? What are you so afraid I'll discover, little healer? Everything, Diana thought, even as the mark on her throat pulsed in time with his heartbeat. Asterisk that I'm Moonstone, that I can raise the dead, that someone just made sure I can never escape you, and I have no idea why. Chapter 1. They managed to stand eventually, moving together in an awkward dance of forced proximity. Every step Diana took away from Thor sent fire through her veins, the bond demanding she stay within arm's reach. She hated it. Hated the loss of control, the violation, the way her body responded to his nearness despite everything his family had done to hers. We need to speak with the ceremony witnesses, Thor said, his hand hovering near her elbow without quite touching. Even that small courtesy felt like a betrayal of her rage. Someone will remember what happened. What happened is that you marked me without my consent. The words exploded from Diana, 3 years of carefully controlled fear igniting into fury. Someone drugged us, yes, but you're the one who bit me. You're the one who... Her voice cracked, and she hated herself for it. I spent 3 years invisible. 3 years safe. And now everyone in this court knows my face, knows I'm bonded to you, and I can't even run because this goddess-damned bond will kill me if I try. Thor's expression remained maddeningly calm, though something flickered behind his eyes. Guilt, perhaps, or pain. You think I wanted this? To wake up having done something I can't remember, to a woman who looks at me like I'm a monster? He took a careful step closer, and Diana's traitorous body relaxed slightly at his proximity, the bond's pain easing. I don't know what I did in those missing hours. But I know what I'm doing now. And right now, I'm asking, not commanding, for your help to find out who did this to us. To us, Diana repeated bitterly. As if we're the same. As if you have anything to lose that compares to. She bit off the words before she could damn herself completely. Asterisk careful. He doesn't know what you are. He doesn't know about Moonstone, asterisk. But Thor's eyes sharpened with that unsettling intelligence. To what? What exactly do you have to lose, Diana? He'd never used her name before, and hearing it in his deep voice sent an unwelcome shiver through her. You're a healer. A good one, from what I've observed. But the way you're acting, the terror in your eyes, you're not afraid of losing a position. You're afraid of being discovered. Diana's heart hammered against her ribs. The mark on her throat pulsed with each beat, a constant reminder of her new, horrifying vulnerability. Please. The word came out broken, and she hated the sound of it. Please, we'll find out who drugged us. We'll figure out what happened. But don't ask me questions I can't answer. Don't make me. Make you what? Thor moved closer, close enough that his warmth surrounded her, close enough that the bond sang with satisfaction. Trust me? Tell me the truth. His voice dropped, almost gentle. I'm not my father, Diana. Whatever you think you know about me, whatever you've heard. Your father destroyed an entire pack. The words tore from her throat before she could stop them. 3 years ago. The Moonstone Pack. He called them traitors and burned them alive. And you were there. You led the warriors who surrounded their territory. You helped him do it. Silence fell between them, sharp and terrible. Diana's breath came in ragged gasps, her secret hovering on her lips, so close to spilling out completely. Thor had gone very still, his face unreadable. "Yes," he said finally quietly. "I was there. And I've spent every day since questioning the official story." His amber eyes held hers, and she saw something in them she hadn't expected. Doubt, guilt, the weight of unanswered questions. "My father said they were selling kingdom secrets, that they'd betrayed us all. But the evidence was too convenient. The witnesses too eager. And when I asked to see the bodies, to give them proper rights, I was told they'd been burned beyond recognition." He paused, something dangerous entering his voice. "Tell me, little healer, were you there? Is that why you flinch every time someone mentions Moonstone? Is that why you've been hiding?" Diana's hands trembled. The truth sat on her tongue, terrifying and inevitable. If she lied now and he discovered it later, she was dead. If she told the truth now, she might be dead anyway. But the bond between them hummed with something that felt almost like understanding, as if some part of her soul recognized something in his. "I'm the last one," she whispered, tears burning her eyes. "The last survivor. And if you're lying about questioning your father's story, if this is some elaborate trap, then you've won. Because I can't run from you now. The bond won't let me. So either kill me or help me find out who forced this, but don't." Her voice broke. "Don't make me hope you're different from him. I can't survive that betrayal again." Thor's hand came up slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with a gentleness that made her chest ache. "I'm going to find out what happened to your pack," he said, his voice steady with promise. "And I'm going to find out who did this to us. Both of us. Together." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "You're not alone anymore, Diana. Even if you wish you were." Chapter 2. The throne room felt too large and too small at once. Diana stood close enough to Thor that their shoulders nearly touched. Any farther, and the bond's pain would make coherent thought impossible. Courtiers lined the walls, their expressions ranging from curiosity to poorly concealed shock. The minor healer who'd spent 3 years being invisible was now their queen, marked and bonded in a ceremony that had apparently scandalized no one. "You seemed willing, Your Majesty," Lady Marivalli said carefully, addressing Thor while her eyes kept sliding to Diana with undisguised fascination. "Both of you. Perhaps a bit quiet, but many couples are overcome during the marking ceremony. The magic can be intense." "Quiet how?" Thor's voice carried the weight of command, and Diana felt the authority rolling off him like a physical force. The bond let her sense it, his power, his control, the leashed danger that made him Alpha King. It should have terrified her. Instead, it made her feel almost safe, and that was more terrifying still. Subdued, another witness offered. "You both drank from the ceremonial cup, spoke the vows, but your voices were soft. Some of us wondered if perhaps the lady was nervous." "I would never force." Thor's jaw clenched, and Diana felt his rage through the bond, hot and righteous. Not at her. At the implication, at what had been done to them both. Did anyone see who prepared the ceremonial wine? Silence. Diana's chest tightened. 3 years she'd watched courts operate, seen how carefully people protected themselves. No one would admit to seeing anything that might implicate them. "Perhaps I can help with this inquiry." The voice cut through the tension, smooth and authoritative. Diana turned and froze. The woman approaching was striking, tall, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair swept into an elegant twist. She wore the deep crimson robes of the chief advisor and moved with the confidence of someone who belonged at a king's right hand. "Bella has served me for 2 years," Thor said, and Diana heard the trust in his voice, the respect. "If anyone can help us trace what happened." But Diana wasn't listening. She was staring at the woman's face, at the familiar curve of her jaw beneath the carefully applied cosmetics, at the eyes that were the wrong color but the right shape. And there, just visible beneath the edge of her sleeve as she gestured, a birthmark, small, crescent-shaped, on her left wrist. "No." No, it's impossible. She died. I saw the fire. Your Majesty looks unwell. Bella's concerned gaze landed on Diana, and there was nothing in those altered eyes but polite worry. The bonding ceremony can be taxing. Perhaps you should rest while the king and I investigate.
No.
The word came out too sharp, too frightened. Diana felt Thor's attention snap to her, felt his confusion through the bond. She forced herself to breathe, to think past the roaring in her ears. This woman couldn't be her sister. Bella had died 3 years ago in the Moonstone massacre. Diana had mourned her. Unless. I want to help, Diana managed, her voice steadier. Someone drugged us both. I deserve to know who. Bella's expression remained perfectly sympathetic, but something flickered in her eyes. There and gone so fast Diana almost missed it. Recognition? Warning? Of course, Your Majesty. Perhaps we should start by questioning the serving staff from the gala. Someone must remember who prepared your wine. They spent hours interviewing servants, guards, anyone who'd been present at the gala. The story remained frustratingly consistent. Diana and Thor had both accepted wine from a server in standard royal livery, but no one could describe the server's face. Male? Female? Young? Old? The details slipped away like water, which meant magic, a forgetting charm, carefully applied. Nightshade wine, Bella said thoughtfully as they reviewed the accounts in Thor's private study. Diana sat in a chair close enough to Thor that their knees almost touched, the bond demanding proximity. It's rare. Expensive. The kind of thing that would require significant resources and knowledge to acquire. And motive, Thor added. His hand rested on the arm of his chair, close enough to Diana's that she could feel his warmth. She'd noticed he did that. Stayed near without crowding, offering comfort through the bond without demanding intimacy she was ready to give. It was unexpectedly thoughtful for a man she'd spent 3 years believing was a monster. Who benefits from forcing a bond between a king and a minor healer? Diana felt his attention on her again, that too-sharp intelligence cataloging her reactions. Through the bond, she sensed his curiosity, his growing suspicion that she was more than she appeared. He'd been asking questions all day about her healing training, her family, where she'd studied. She'd deflected each one, but the evasions were starting to show. Perhaps someone wanted to elevate the healer's status, Bella suggested smoothly. Or compromise yours, Your Majesty. A king bonded to someone so far beneath his station. She caught herself. Forgive me, Your Majesty. I meant no offense. None taken, Diana said automatically, but her mind was racing. That voice. The cadence was different, the accent carefully refined, but underneath. Have we met before? Before I came to court. Bella's smile never wavered. I don't believe so, Your Majesty. I would certainly remember.
A lie.
Diana was suddenly certain it was a lie.
But why?
And how could her dead sister be standing here, advising the man whose father had ordered her death? You're afraid again. Thor's quiet observation made her jump. They were alone now. Bella had left to pursue other leads, promising to report back by evening. His amber eyes studied her with that unnerving focus. Every time my chief advisor speaks, your heart races. Why? I'm not, but the bond betrayed her, letting him sense the spike of panic, the grief and confusion churning in her chest. Don't lie to me, Diana. Thor shifted closer, his hand finding hers before she could pull away. The contact sent warmth flooding through the bond, easing fears she didn't want eased. I meant what I said. We're in this together. But I can't help you if you won't trust me. Diana looked at their joined hands, the hands of a king and the last Moonstone survivor, bound by magic neither had chosen, but both were trapped by. He was nothing like she'd expected. He listened when she spoke about healing techniques. He'd pulled her against him earlier when the separation pain grew too intense, and whispered apologies against her hair. He made her want to believe that maybe, impossibly, his father's sins weren't his. I think I'm going insane, she whispered. I think I see ghosts where there shouldn't be any. Thor's grip tightened, protective and sure. Then we'll figure out why. Together. Chapter 3. Diana's healing chambers smelled of dried lavender and moonflower, herbs she'd hung to mask the scent of her more dangerous work. Thor stood close behind her as she knelt by the stone hearth, his presence warm and steady through the bond. Her fingers found the loose stone she'd placed 3 years ago, a hiding spot for things too precious or too damning to leave in the open. "There's something," she murmured, prying the stone free. "I keep private notes. Things I can't risk anyone finding." Her hand closed around the leather-bound journal, and the moment she touched it, something sparked in her mind. A ghost of memory, there and gone. Her own handwriting. Thor's voice, low and urgent. "Asterisk, we have to be careful. If anyone discovers what we've found, Diana?" Thor's hand settled on her shoulder, grounding her. "What is it?" She pulled the journal free with trembling hands. The leather was worn, well-used, and when she opened it, her own handwriting stared back at her. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. "Met with the Alpha King today. He summoned me to examine Lord Harwick's body. Official cause of death was heart failure, but Thor suspects poison. He asked if I could detect supernatural toxins. I told him I could try. He looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years. It was unsettling. Also, not entirely unpleasant. 6 months, Thor breathed, reading over her shoulder. We've been working together for 6 months, and neither of us remembers any of it." Diana's hands shook as she turned pages. Entry after entry detailed examinations of bodies, late-night meetings in Thor's private study, evidence of a pattern, nobles who opposed certain policies dying suddenly, always from natural-seeming causes. Her handwriting grew more familiar, more comfortable, as the months progressed. "Thor brought me dinner tonight. Said I needed to eat if I was going to spend hours examining tissue samples. He stayed and asked about my training, where I learned to detect poisons in bone marrow. I almost told him everything about Moonstone, about the massacre, about what I really am. The way he looks at me sometimes, like he sees past every wall I've built, it's terrifying. It's also the safest I've felt in 3 years." Thor made a choked sound behind her. Through the bond, Diana felt his emotions crashing like waves, confusion, grief, and underneath it all, something tender and aching. "Keep reading," he whispered. The entries grew more personal. Conversations that stretched past dawn. Thor confessing his doubts about his father's war campaigns. Diana teaching him to recognize healing herbs. The slow, inevitable slide from allies to something more. "He kissed me tonight. We were examining evidence of nightshade poisoning, and he looked up and said, 'You're brilliant, you know that?' And then he kissed me like I was something precious instead of Moonstone trash hiding in his court. I kissed him back. Goddess help me. I kissed him back, and it felt like coming home." Diana's vision blurred with tears. She didn't remember this, any of it. But the evidence was here in her own hand, in words she'd written, feelings she'd felt. She turned to look at Thor and found his face transformed with the same grief and wonder she felt. "I loved you," she whispered. "We fell in love, and I don't remember." His thumb brushed away her tears. "Neither do I. But Diana, what if remembering is what they were afraid of? What if that's why they took our memories?" She turned back to the journal with shaking hands, flipping to the final entries. The writing grew urgent, almost frantic. "We've identified 3 more deaths, all poisoned with supernatural toxins only a gifted healer could detect. Thor thinks someone close to him is orchestrating this, manipulating succession. We're close to uncovering who. But if they discover we're investigating, Thor asked me to bond with him. Not because of the investigation, though that's part of it. As his queen, I'd be untouchable. My healing gift could protect him from whoever is doing this. But he said he'd been planning to ask anyway, that he'd fallen in love with me months ago. I told him the truth tonight, all of it. About Moonstone, about being the last survivor, about my resurrection gift. He held me while I cried and swore he'd find out what really happened to my pack. He said his father's story never made sense, that he spent years questioning it. We chose this bond. Together. Tomorrow night, at the gala, we'll announce it properly. The next page was blank except for a single line, the ink smeared as if written in desperate haste. Someone knows. The wine, don't drink the... Thor's arms came around her from behind, holding her as the implications crashed over them both. We chose this, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Everything we're feeling now, the connection through the bond. We chose it before they took our memories. Diana, someone didn't just drug us. They stole our choice and tried to make it look like force. Diana turned in his arms, the journal clutched between them. The investigation. We were close to exposing someone, and her breath caught. Thor, what if they're still planning to kill you? What if forcing the bond was just the first step? Then they made a mistake. His eyes blazed with that alpha authority, but when he cupped her face, his touch was infinitely gentle. Because now you're my queen, and your gift can detect any poison they try. They gave us exactly what we wanted, they just tried to make us hate it. His forehead pressed against hers. I don't remember falling in love with you, but reading those words, feeling what I feel through this bond, Diana, I think I'm falling again.
Right now.
Is that insane? Completely, she whispered, but her hands were fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. We don't know each other. We don't remember. We knew each other well enough to risk everything. His lips brushed hers, soft and questioning. Well enough that you told me your deepest secret. Well enough that I swore to find your family's killers. The kiss deepened, and through the bond, Diana felt his emotions tangle with hers, grief for what was stolen, rage at whoever took it, and underneath everything, the ember of something that felt like love being born twice. When they finally pulled apart, Diana's mind was racing. Someone close to you, she said, her voice steadier now. Someone with access to supernatural poisons. Someone who benefits from nobles dying. Her stomach dropped. Thor, your chief advisor. How long has she served you? 2 years. His eyes sharpened. Since just after the Moonstone massacre. She came highly recommended, but... He paused, thinking. I never questioned her credentials. She was just suddenly there, essential, trusted. His expression darkened. You think Bella is involved? Diana thought of the crescent birthmark, the familiar cadence beneath the refined accent, the way her supposedly dead sister had looked at her with nothing but polite concern. I think, she said carefully, that we need to find out exactly who your chief advisor really is. Chapter 4. The memory hit Diana without warning as they walked through the moonlit gardens. One moment she was breathing in night jasmine, the next she was drowning in sensation. The terrace, tears streaming down her face, Thor's voice gentle and concerned. Why are you crying? Diana gasped, stumbling. Thor caught her instantly as the fragment played out behind her eyes. 3 years ago today, her past self whispered. Since they burned. Since my family died screaming, and I hid while the smoke filled the sky. Diana? Thor's present voice cut through the memory. What's happening?
I'm remembering.
The gala. You found me crying and her breath caught. I told you. That night, I told you everything. Thor's hands framed her face, his amber eyes searching hers. Tell me again. Whatever you said that night, tell me now.
I'm Moonstone.
The words came easier this time. The last survivor of the pack your father massacred. He called us traitors and burned our territory while you surrounded us so no one could escape. Diana's voice cracked. I was in the healer's hut when the fire started. I heard my mother screaming, and I tried to save her with my gift, but I was too late. Too weak. I could only hide while everyone I loved died. Thor had gone absolutely still, his face draining of color. But it wasn't shock, it was recognition. Moonstone, he breathed. You told me this before, and I remember pieces. I told you that my father's story never made sense. What? The official report said Moonstone was selling kingdom secrets. But when I asked to see the evidence, my father showed me documents that felt wrong, too perfect, too convenient. Every witness statement identical. No survivors to question. His hands tightened on her face. I've spent 3 years trying to investigate, hitting walls at every turn, records going missing, witnesses dying. You believed me? Diana whispered. When I told you before. I believed you, because I'd already suspected my father lied. Thor's forehead pressed against hers. And I swore I'd find out what really happened. We decided to investigate together. Your healing gift, my access to records. We were partners. More memories surfaced. Late nights in Thor's study, teaching him to recognize supernatural poisons. Him showing her sealed documents about Moonstone's last days, evidence that didn't align with the official story. Trust building between two people who shouldn't have been able to trust at all. We found something, Diana said suddenly. In the journal, it mentioned we'd uncovered evidence. Thor, what if Moonstone wasn't destroyed for treason? What if they were killed because they discovered something? Thor's eyes sharpened. Someone's selling secrets. That's what you wrote. We'd found evidence of someone manipulating succession through poison. He started pacing, careful not to move too far. If Moonstone discovered a traitor in my father's court, and that traitor convinced him the pack was treasonous, they'd eliminate the witnesses and gain approval for genocide. Diana's stomach turned. Thor, whoever did this has been operating for 3 years. They're still here, still in power. And they're terrified of what we might remember. Thor's face hardened. That's why they drugged us. Not just to force the bond, but to steal the memories of what we discovered. Your chief advisor offered to help investigate. Diana's voice went hollow. She's had access to everything we've found. Every lead we've followed. Thor's expression turned to stone. Bella came to court 2 years ago, just months after Moonstone burned. I never questioned her credentials. She was simply there one day, essential and trusted. His hands clenched. If she's involved, if she orchestrated the massacre, and I've had her at my side. There's more. Diana forced the words past the grief. That birthmark on her wrist. The way she moves, the cadence beneath her accent. She looked up at Thor, tears blurring her vision. I think your chief advisor is my sister. Her real name was Isabella. And I watched her die 3 years ago, except I didn't. Because she's standing in your throne room, helping us investigate crimes I'm starting to think she committed. The bond between them flared with Thor's rage and Diana's anguish. Then we find proof, Thor growled. We remember everything they tried to steal. And we make whoever destroyed your family pay for every single life they took. Diana nodded, her resolve hardening. Together. Together, Thor echoed, and sealed the vow with a kiss that tasted like justice and grief, and something that refused to be stolen again.
Chapter 5.
The portrait was tucked in a corner of the royal archives, dusty and half-forgotten. Diana had been searching for records about the gala servants when her eyes landed on it, a formal painting dated 4 years ago, before the massacre. The woman in the portrait wore her hair differently, lighter than now, styled in the old Moonstone fashion. But the face was unmistakable. Sharp cheekbones, intelligent eyes. And there, painted with careful detail on her left wrist, a small crescent birthmark.
No.
The word came out strangled. Diana read the nameplate beneath. Asterisk Isabella of Moonstone. Diplomatic envoy, asterisk. Thor looked up from his documents. Diana? What is it? She couldn't speak. The portrait showed her sister, alive, healthy, working in Thor's father's court a full year before the massacre. That's Bella, Thor said, moving closer. His brow furrowed. But the name, Isabella of Moonstone. Horror dawned in his eyes. Your sister. I thought she died. Diana's voice came from somewhere far away. But she was here the whole time, and then the implications crashed over her. She came to your court 2 years ago, right after Moonstone burned. Thor, what if she didn't die because she was never there? Diana ran, following the bond's pull toward where she'd last sensed Bella. She found her in a small antechamber, reviewing reports. The chief advisor looked up with polite concern. Diana slammed the portrait onto the table. When were you going to tell me you were alive, Isabella? For a long moment, Bella simply stared at the portrait. Then her expression changed. The concern melted away, replaced by something cold and sharp. When she smiled, it was with a familiarity that made Diana's stomach turn. I wondered when you'd figure it out, little sister. Isabella's voice dropped the refined accent. I suppose I've changed more than I thought. Thor burst into the chamber, his hand immediately finding Diana's arm. Your Moonstone, he said, his voice deadly quiet. You were part of the pack. I was the pack's diplomatic envoy. Isabella leaned back, utterly relaxed. I spent 2 years in your father's court, building relationships. I was very good at my job. Her smile sharpened. Good enough to realize our pack was on the wrong side of history. You betrayed us. Diana's voice shook. The treason my father was accused of, it was you. I was securing my future. Isabella stood, moving with predatory grace. Our pack discovered I'd been passing information. They were going to execute me. So I offered Thor's father complete intelligence on Moonstone's defenses, patrol patterns, when their strongest warriors would be away. She said it like discussing the weather. In exchange, I got to live. I got position, power, a new identity. You watched them die. Tears streamed down Diana's face. I watched from the ridge line with the king's warriors. Isabella's eyes were empty of remorse. It was necessary. Thor's grip tightened. Why drug us? Why force the bond? Isabella's gaze shifted to Diana, something hungry entering her expression. Because my dear little sister has been hiding a valuable secret, a resurrection gift, the ability to bring wolves back from death's edge. She gestured at Diana. Now you're queen, untouchable. And as your only surviving family, your trusted sister, I'll have access to that gift. A few nobles poisoned to the brink, then miraculously saved? I could build an army loyal only to me. You're insane, Diana whispered.
I'm practical.
Isabella moved closer. I gave you everything, power, position, protection. We could rule this kingdom together. Diana looked at the woman wearing her sister's face and felt something inside her harden. You're not my sister anymore. You died 3 years ago. This is just a ghost pretending to be alive. Isabella's smile faded. Then I suppose we're enemies now. We've been enemies since the night you let our family burn, Diana said, feeling Thor's steady presence through the bond. And now we're going to prove what you did. Chapter 6. Isabella circled them slowly, her confidence absolute. You want to know the beautiful part? I've already started. Lord Harwick, the first body you examined together 6 months ago. I brought him to death's edge with Nightshade, then discovered him just in time for the healers to save him. Her smile was cruel. He's been singing my praises ever since, convinced I'm the reason he survived. So loyal now. So grateful. Diana's blood ran cold. The others. The mysterious deaths we were investigating. Not all of them died. Isabella's eyes gleamed. Some I saved. Well, you saved them, little sister. Your gift, channeled through our blood connection. I'd visit you while you slept, stand close enough to draw on your power, then go rescue my chosen targets. She laughed at Diana's horror. You've been building my army for months without even knowing it. Thor's rage pulsed through the bond. How many? 12 so far. Nobles, warriors, counselors, all strategically chosen. All convinced that Chief Advisor Bella saved their lives when the Queen's healers had given up. Isabella's expression turned calculating. I need perhaps 20 more. Then I'll have enough support to make my move. Your move, Diana repeated, her voice hollow. Thor's unfortunate death, of course. Isabella said it casually, as if discussing dinner plans. Poison that mimics natural causes, a heart attack, perhaps, or stroke. So tragic. So sudden. And his young queen, devastated and overwhelmed, will need guidance. Her only surviving family, the woman who served the throne faithfully, who saved so many lives. She shrugged. I'll rule through you, Diana. You'll be my puppet queen, and your resurrection gift will be my weapon. I'll never help you, Diana spat. You will. Isabella's voice went cold. Because if you don't, I'll start killing the survivors. Yes, I know about them. The 3 Moonstone wolves who escaped that night and have been hiding in the Eastern Territories. I've known for 2 years. One word from me, and they burn just like the others. She leaned closer. Cooperate and they live. They might even thrive under my protection. Refuse, and you'll watch your people die. Again. Diana felt Thor's fury through the bond, but also his racing thoughts. The journal, he said suddenly. The bond. We chose it before you drugged us. Isabella's smile faltered slightly.
Yes.
That was unexpected. I'd been planning to force the bond eventually, but you two decided to complicate things by falling in love and choosing it yourselves. Her jaw tightened. You were getting too close to the truth. The journal entries, the investigation, you nearly connected me to the Moonstone massacre. The forced bond was supposed to be my cover, my control. Instead, I had to steal your memories to eliminate the evidence you'd gathered. But we wrote it down, Diana said, understanding crystallizing. The journal. Everything we discovered. You drugged us to make us forget, but the evidence still exists. Evidence I'll destroy once I have full control. Isabella's confidence returned. But first, I need your cooperation. So here's what happens next. You'll both forget this conversation. I have enough nightshade wine left for one more dose. When you wake, you'll remember only that we're sisters, reunited, and I'm here to help you navigate your new role as queen. She pulled a vial from her robes. Drink willingly, or I'll have my loyal guards force it down your throats. Either way, you'll forget. Again. Thor moved, putting himself between Diana and Isabella. You won't touch her. How noble. Isabella's smile turned predatory, but ultimately futile. I've spent 3 years planning this. 3 years building my network, my power, my army. You can't stop what's already in motion. Diana felt her resurrection gift stirring, responding to her rage and desperation. The power that could bring wolves back from death's edge hummed beneath her skin, waiting. You made one mistake, she said quietly. Isabella raised an eyebrow. Oh, you gave us each other. Diana reached for Thor's hand, and the bond flared between them, stronger than before. You forced a connection that makes us stronger together. And now we remember what you tried to steal. Then I'll just have to make you forget again, Isabella said, signaling to guards Diana had noticed in the shadows. Permanently, if necessary. Chapter 7. The inner council chamber fell silent as Diana laid the final piece of evidence on the table, correspondence in Bella's handwriting detailing Moonstone defensive positions, dated 3 days before the massacre. Impossible, Bella said smoothly, but Diana saw the calculation in her sister's eyes. Those documents are clearly forged. They bear your seal, Thor said, his voice carrying absolute authority. The one our father gave you when you first entered his service. The same seal you've been using for 3 years. Bella's mask finally cracked. Her smile turned sharp, predatory. You always were too sentimental, cousin. She raised her hand in a prearranged signal. I suppose we're done pretending. The doors burst open. Guards poured in, not Thor's royal guard, but men wearing Bella's colors. Nobles Diana had served alongside for years drew hidden weapons, their faces cold with purpose. Did you really think I'd spend 3 years building nothing? Bella's laugh was brittle. Every favor granted, every sick child I helped you heal, Diana, they all owe me now. And they pay their debts. Steel sang as Thor's loyal guards engaged Bella's conspirators. The throne room erupted into chaos, shouting, clashing blades, the acrid smell of blood. Thor moved with lethal grace, his sword cutting through attackers with brutal efficiency. Get behind me, he commanded, positioning himself between Diana and the advancing threat. A blade flashed from Diana's blind spot. She screamed a warning, but Thor had already seen it, already turned to parry. The strike glanced off his defense, but opened a line of red across his ribs. Another attacker came from the left. Thor blocked, riposted, drove the man back. But he was bleeding now, crimson spreading across his shirt. Thor. I've fine. He wasn't. She could see him favoring his wounded side, his movements slowing incrementally. Then Bella herself moved, faster than Diana expected. Her blade caught Thor's shoulder, sank deep. He gasped, his sword clattering from suddenly nerveless fingers.
No!
Diana caught him as he collapsed, his weight driving them both to their knees. Blood pulsed hot between her fingers. Too much blood, too fast. Diana. His face had gone gray. Run. She pressed her hands to his wounds, feeling his life pouring out beneath her palms. The bond screamed in agony, recognizing its mate dying. I won't leave you. Tears blurred her vision. I can't. Her healing gift surged instinctively, desperate to save him. But this was too much damage, too fast. Even her power couldn't.
No.
Something deeper stirred inside her. Not the gentle healing she'd always used, but something vast and terrible that had been sleeping since the night her pack died. The mating bond amplified it, Thor's dying heart calling to hers with desperate need. Diana stopped fighting the power and let it explode. Light erupted from her hands, not the warm gold of healing, but silver white like moonlight, like death itself. The temperature in the throne room plummeted. Her breath misted in suddenly freezing air. And then they came. Translucent forms materialized in the throne room, dozens of them, ghostly wolves in human form. Diana's gift had torn open the veil between worlds, summoning the dead. Her mother appeared first, then her father, then uncles and aunts and cousins she'd mourned for 3 years. The murdered Moonstone Pack, every soul lost that terrible night, stood as witnesses in the realm of the living. The fighting stopped. Even Bella's loyalists froze, staring at the impossible sight of the dead walking among them. Diana's mother moved to stand beside her, one translucent hand hovering over Diana's head. My daughter. Her voice echoed with otherworldly resonance. My brave, beautiful daughter. We're here. Show them. And Diana understood. Her resurrection gift didn't just heal the living. It gave voice to the dead. She raised her blood-covered hands and let her parents' truth pour through her. Chapter 8. Diana's power flowed through her like a river breaking its banks, 3 years of suppression releasing in a torrent of silver light. The spirits of her pack pressed closer, their forms growing more solid, more real, until the throne room felt crowded with the weight of the dead demanding justice. Speak. Diana commanded, her voice layered with otherworldly resonance. Show them what she did. Her mother's spirit moved to the center of the room, and when she spoke, every living soul heard her voice as clearly as if she still breathed. My daughter Bella came to us 3 nights before the attack. The spirit's words rang with terrible truth. She brought maps, detailed layouts of our defensive positions, our patrol schedules, the location of our children's sanctuary. She said she needed them copied for a diplomatic archive. The ghostly form shifted, and suddenly the council saw what Diana's mother had seen. Bella in their family home, spreading parchment across the table, her young face earnest and loving. No one would have suspected treason from a beloved daughter. Diana's father materialized beside his wife, his spectral form radiating the authority he'd carried in life as Pack Alpha. 2 nights before the massacre, I saw her.
His voice was granite.
Meeting with men wearing the old king's colors in the forest beyond our borders. They gave her a chest of gold. Enough to buy a position at court, a new name, a new life. The spirits showed the memory, Bella accepting payment, her face cold and calculating as she counted coins while her family's executioners made their plans. No, Bella whispered, backing away. They're lying. Spirits can be manipulated, everyone knows. Can they? Diana's voice cut through her sister's protests. Can resurrection magic force the dead to lie? She looked at the council members, at the priests and scholars among them. Tell them, can spirits bound by a healer's gift speak anything but truth? The head priest's face had gone pale. No, your majesty. The dead cannot lie when summoned by resurrection magic. It's why the gift is so feared, because it brings absolute truth. More spirits pressed forward now, showing their memories. Bella watching from a hidden vantage point as flames consumed the Moonstone compound. Her face showed no horror, no grief, only cold satisfaction as she witnessed her family's screams. An uncle's spirit spoke of seeing Bella leave the compound hours before the attack, taking nothing with her, saying nothing to warn them. A cousin showed Bella's careful elimination of anyone who might have recognized her in the capital, poison administered over months to refugees who'd escaped the massacre. Each testimony built upon the last until the evidence became a mountain no one could deny. Bella's supporters began backing away, their faces horrified. Weapons clattered to the floor as nobles who'd pledged loyalty to her scrambled to distance themselves from a woman who'd orchestrated genocide against her own blood. "The evidence is clear," Thor said, his voice weak but steady. Diana's desperate healing had closed his wounds enough to keep him alive, though he remained kneeling, one hand pressed to his side. Bella of the former Moonstone Pack stands convicted of genocide through betrayal, conspiracy to commit regicide, and dark magical manipulation of the court. The council members who weren't already fleeing nodded in pale-faced agreement. This wasn't a trial, it was a revelation, truth laid bare by magic that couldn't be disputed. "The sentence is death," Thor continued, "to be carried out at dawn." Royal guards, true loyalists, seized Bella's arms. She thrashed against them, her composure finally shattering completely. "You don't understand," she screamed at Diana, her face contorted with rage and something that might have been grief. "They were weak. Our pack was dying, losing territory every year while Father clung to outdated honor codes. I did what was necessary for survival." "You murdered children," Diana said quietly, and her voice carried the weight of every spirit still crowding the throne room. "You burned innocents. You betrayed everyone who loved you. For power. For a future." Bella's struggles intensified as the guards dragged her toward the door. "You were always too weak to do what's necessary for power, Diana. Too soft, too good, too pathetic to see that mercy is just another word for losing." "No," Diana said, and around her, the spirits of her family drew close, her mother's hand on her shoulder, her father's presence at her back, all the love she'd thought she'd lost forever, surrounding her with warmth. "Mercy is what makes us different from you." The door slammed shut behind Bella's screaming form, cutting off her final curses. The throne room fell silent except for Diana's ragged breathing. The spirits were fading now, their testimony given, their purpose fulfilled. Her mother's ghost cupped Diana's face one last time. "We can rest now, daughter. You've given us justice. Now give yourself peace." Then they were gone, the veil closing, leaving Diana kneeling in a pool of Thor's blood with the weight of resurrection magic still burning in her veins. She looked down at him, at the man she'd saved, the bond singing with relief that he lived. "Is it over?" she whispered. Thor's hand found hers, squeezed weakly. "It's over." Chapter 9. Diana collapsed the moment the last spirit faded, her body finally surrendering to the crushing weight of power she'd channeled. Thor caught her despite his own wounds, lifting her with a strength that shouldn't have been possible for someone who'd nearly died an hour ago. "I've got you," he murmured against her hair, carrying her from the blood-stained throne room. "You're safe now." She surfaced intermittently over the next 3 days, brief moments of consciousness where she registered Thor's chambers, soft sheets, his hand holding hers. Each time she woke, he was there, watching over her with an intensity that made her chest ache. On the 4th day, she finally stayed awake. "You should be resting," Diana said, her voice hoarse. Thor sat in a chair pulled close to the bed, his torso wrapped in bandages, dark circles under his eyes. "Your wounds are healing fine, thanks to you." He pressed a cup of water to her lips. "You saved my life, Diana." Again, apparently, if the journal entries are accurate. Memory fragments had been returning in dreams, conversations in the royal archives where she'd been cataloging medical texts and he'd appeared asking questions that had nothing to do with books. The way he'd looked at her when she'd laughed at something he said, like he was memorizing the sound. Their first kiss, hidden between shelves of ancient histories, both of them knowing it was dangerous and choosing it anyway. "I remember more now," Diana admitted. "The night we decided to bond. We knew Bella was planning something, knew we needed protection. But that's not why," she stopped, the truth too vulnerable. "Not why you said yes?" Thor set the cup aside, taking her hand. I remember too. You were crying because it felt like betraying your pack, loving the son of the man who'd ordered their deaths. And I told you that your father's sins weren't yours to carry. Diana's throat tightened. That I could honor my dead and still choose to live. That love wasn't betrayal. We chose the bond to survive Bella's conspiracy, Thor said quietly. But we chose each other because we'd already fallen in love. The bond was just making official what was already true. Diana looked at their joined hands, his scarred fingers threaded through hers. I fell in love with you twice. Once over 3 months of stolen moments and dangerous investigations. Then again over 3 days of confusion and missing memories, finding my way back to the same truth. Diana, let me finish. She sat up, ignoring her body's protests. The bond was forced in its completion. I fainted under your weight during the marking ceremony, woke with no memory of consenting. That violation of choice will always be part of our story. Thor's face tightened with old guilt. I know. If I could change. But the bond itself? Diana continued. The decision to tie our lives together? That was ours. We made it willingly, even knowing what it would cost. She cupped his face, thumb brushing the dark stubble on his jaw. So, I'm choosing it again now. Choosing you. Not because magic forces us together, but because I want to. The hope that blazed in his eyes nearly undid her. Stay with me, Thor said, and his voice shook. Not as a forced queen, not as a political necessity. Stay, because you want to build something together. A kingdom where healers aren't hunted. Where resurrection gifts are protected, not exploited. Where the past can be honored without holding the future hostage. Yes. The word came easily, feeling like the most natural thing she'd ever said. Yes to all of it. His kiss was gentle despite the hunger in his eyes, careful of her exhausted state. When they finally broke apart, Diana rested her forehead against his. Bella was executed this morning, Thor said quietly. She went to the blade, still screaming that mercy was weakness. Diana thought about her sister, the girl she'd loved, the monster she'd become, the ultimate betrayal of choosing power over family. Maybe it is weakness, but I'd rather be weak and whole than strong and broken like she was. You're not weak. Thor's arms tightened around her. You tore open the veil between worlds and brought the dead as witnesses. You saved my life. You faced down your sister knowing she'd orchestrated your family's murder. That's not weakness, Diana. That's the strongest thing I've ever seen. She let herself believe him, let herself rest in his embrace without fear. 6 months later, Diana stood in the courtyard of the newly established sanctuary of healers, watching students practice resurrection techniques under controlled conditions. Wolves with gifts like hers, rare, powerful, previously hunted, could now learn without fear. Lady Astrid is making excellent progress, Arthur, her head instructor, reported. She brought a bird back from Death's Edge yesterday without any of the usual exhaustion. Good. Diana approved the notation in his records. Make sure she understands the ethics protocols. Resurrection magic is a gift, not a tool for manipulation. After Arthur left, Thor appeared at her elbow, sliding an arm around her waist. The council approved funding for the Eastern Branch. You'll have sanctuaries in all 5 territories by year's end. Diana leaned into him, marveling at how natural it felt now, this casual intimacy, this easy partnership. Thank you. You're changing the kingdom, Thor said, pride evident in his voice. Healers are coming out of hiding across the realm. Last week, 3 resurrection-gifted wolves petitioned for sanctuary status. A year ago, they'd have been hunted or enslaved. She thought about her younger self, the girl who'd spent 3 years making herself forgettable, suppressing her gift, living half a life out of fear. That Diana couldn't have imagined this, standing in sunlight, using her power openly, loved and protected. The spirits came to me last night, Diana said quietly. My parents and the others. They said they could finally rest. That justice had been served and I'd honored them by building something good from the ashes. Are they at peace? Yes. She smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. They told me the most powerful healing isn't raising the dead, it's choosing to trust the living. That night, wrapped in Thor's arms in the bed where she'd once woken panicked and confused, Diana made her daily choice. The bond hummed contentedly between them, no longer a forced chain but a chosen connection. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I love you too. His lips brushed her temple. Thank you for choosing me. Again. Always. And she meant it. Every morning she woke and chose him again, chose this life, chose trust over fear. They'd built a kingdom where healers were sacred, where the dead could be honored without holding the living captive, where resurrection magic served life instead of power. Most importantly, they'd proven that love chosen twice, once in desperate conspiracy, once in full knowledge and freedom, was unbreakable. Diana closed her eyes and let sleep claim her, safe in the knowledge that when she woke, she'd still be held, still be chosen, still be loved. And that she'd fainted under his weight during a forced ceremony only to wake up finding her way to choosing him anyway would forever be their strange, complicated, beautiful truth.